Okay, this is episode number 3 of the Sports Consiglieres. Your host, Jim Whalen, along with my co host, Jerry Calla. This is a new venture. I was solo and I came on as a team. I recruited Jerry to come on uh, with the show and kind of use the name Sports Consiglieres, both being from New Jersey. Um, he's Italian. I want to be Italian. So, but this is
Very
episode number 3. So follow us on Instagram at Sports Consiglieres, putting some of my old shows on, and we'll have some new content on there. So we'll try to get an episode every week to keep everything current. So Jerry, I don't know if you have anything you want to say as far as
no,
about your experience with this, and I'm glad you're part of the team, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad it's you, and I'm just happy that like-minded people, and that this venture is really
yeah,
more of a hobby.
absolutely,
So
absolutely. It's going to start off like anything else, slow. We did 2 episodes. Set up the Instagram account. And every week we're just going to keep plugging away and trying to grow it. And maybe when I get a few more episodes under my belt, I will be able to have a shirt like you're wearing on this
that's
episode.
right.
So
It's eBay, so it's
yeah,
not a cold shirt. It's eBay. It's
I thought we were looking for a Kohl's sponsor, so
Yeah,
you
yeah. So
wear it
yeah,
well.
we're looking for any sponsor. So if you're out there, if you have any type of sponsorship that you want, feel free. We'll take all takers because Jerry's still doing this from home. He doesn't want to pay the tolls to come down to Manawan, New Jersey. I'm down in Chop Sports down in Manawan. Dave Sturchio is my producer. Big wrestling guy. He's got a War at the Shore, July 16th at Jenkinson. So if you're a wrestling fan, he's trying to get that kicked off. So. If you're into podcasting, if you're into anything, video related, promote your business. He's the guy to see, and he welcomed me with open arms and set everything up for me. And then obviously, I invited Jerry on, so it's been first 2 episodes have been really great. But I think we want to kind of
Well, Jimmy,
delve.
to keep with the wrestling theme, I'm like the missing link. I'm airing, if you will, from parts unknown. It's like wait unknown, parts unknown. I'm in a random basement.
Yeah, so that's all right. And then, well, at least it's not COVID related. So, but
That's
you're
right. That's right. It's by
so.
choice.
So we got to delve into the Knicks. First off, what are your thoughts on the series so far, and what do you think your thoughts on going forward, going against Indiana? Indiana kind of impressed me. Good young team. The Knicks, obviously, with the injuries, Jalen Brunson, he's playing like probably at a time when you and I started following with Bernard King, who was definitely, I think, captured the city. Jalen Brunson did that yourself, just to break down a little bit about the Knicks series and going forward, where they are now, and you think that they might finish and go to Boston.
Well,
And
it's funny because I'm a longtime Knicks fan. The picture that you posted on Instagram, how we were leading into what we were going to discuss on episode 3. I actually have autographed in my basement, which is one of my favorite photos of all time, which is Bernard King with the crown. You talk about Bernard King, that's kind of what got us into the Knicks, so to speak. It was a magical run. Boston, him against Bird, him battling, Isaiah, him playing with the flu, in Detroit. That was a magical run that kind of came out of nowhere. But it did spark the city, and it was really, an individual performance that really propelled the Knicks that year.
and it was Hubie Brown was the coach
Hubie
then.
Brown,
It was
young
it,
Rick Pitino on that staff.
yeah. So it was right before the Patrick Ewing. You had Truck Robinson.
Correct.
I know Pat Cummings was
Yeah.
on that team.
Rory
Ernie
Sparrow.
Grunfeld. You had Ernie and Bernie show. They both started Tennessee,
Yeah.
so it really recaptured the city. And then looking at the Garden now, it's almost like it's like a Wall Street Rucker. It's just like
It's unbelievable.
you see like these Wall Street types, and they're looks like they just bought their Knicks jersey, putting over their button-down shirt, and it's crazy. Only time of atmosphere you see is at the Rucker like now. So I mean, it's
Right.
good to have the Garden add that vibe, and also it's good to see New York basketball, especially Knick basketball, relevant again. So
Absolutely. Again, and then, to add a personal touch to this, I sat in the Garden, the old Garden, if you will, or the before it was refurbished. I shouldn't say old Garden and new Garden, but I sat there during the Don Chaney, Lenny Wilkins, let's see, Herb Williams, Mike D'Antoni years, the Isaiah years, and the place. I had season tickets. I had them up until I gave them up right, and of course, my luck. I gave them up, family obligations right before they hired Mike Woodson, and he did a really good job. He shouldn't have got fired for Hornacek, but that's a whole nother story. But again, you talk about the place being electric. It's electric with a capital E, baby. I mean, going to those games during the Isaiah years
Electric
was
with a capital E. I like that one.
100% brutal. Sitting there with an Eddie Curry jersey, a Jared Jeffries jersey, Stephon
So,
Marbury.
yeah,
I'll never forget Isaiah trading for Steve Francis and trying to sell to the public. Oh, this is going to be like Clyde and Earl Monroe pairing Steve
yeah,
Francis with Marbury,
yeah.
and it was brutal. And
Stevie
now
franchise, and also like the lawsuits, and they
it
don't.
was a circus. It was
And
a
then
circus.
also, Oakley got thrown out. He's still like,
Correct.
so I mean, it's just like the Knicks were on the front page for all the wrong reasons.
Correct.
Now,
Those were bad years. Those were
yeah.
bad years,
So
without question. Now you fast forward, the building is electric. You have the co-tenant Rangers doing very very well. Strikes good memories of '94.
correct.
And it's interesting because when you go back to '94, that was a magical time as well. The Knicks should have won. Okay, they should have won the NBA title. No, hands down, no questions. And
Yeah,
again, how we proceed now, obviously the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. How we proceed in talking to this about the series. Indiana, very impressive. Okay. Knicks, okay, really have electrified the city. It's good for the NBA, no matter what other fans or other pundits, if you will, say. It is good for the NBA when the Knicks are doing well, when the Knicks can go into the playoffs, make deep runs. Okay, they have an exciting team. They have a very Knick team, if you will, a throwback team. Okay, now let's compare this. Okay, because everybody wants to make these comparisons of the '94 Rangers, '94 Knicks to the 2024 version. Okay, Mike Vaccaro hit the nail on the head. New York Post today. Okay, comparing, great comparison. Let's not make the same mistake that Pat Riley has made in '94, who to this day has said it was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made. Living and dying with Starks as Rolando Blackman sat on the bench. Now, the Knicks, okay, for unforeseen circumstances, have a player. I don't want to compare him because Rolando Blackman had a very good career with the
yeah.
Mavericks.
He was
He
a
was brought
journeyman.
in
Yeah,
for his
yeah,
shooting. Now you have a situation where, because the process of elimination of your depth, if you will, with all the injuries, Alec Burks stepping up, performing at a high level. He hopefully will be this year's, or what should have been in '94, okay, that version of Rolando Blackman. And again, he's giving good minutes. His shooting percentage is very, very high. Okay, but again, I wanted to add that point because I think when you talk about '94, okay, and I know we're jumping back to '94, but there are a
yeah,
lot of similarities because that's ultimately when the last time these two teams had this much juice, electricity, mojo, if you will,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, behind them. And everybody wants to put that, on Starks and put that on Ewing not being able to, to overcome Elijah Wan and Ori and Kenny Smith. However, okay, you have a premium, at the time, an ex NBA All-Star guard on the bench. And Riley, over the years, he has been adamant about that. That's one of his biggest mistakes, of his career, is not going to Blackman because they traded for him, okay, for that very reason, which was to come in, okay, and to basically spell Starks and to use his precision shooting to spell Starks as a veteran. Now you have a player that was very popular. Okay, his first Knick go around, obviously not as successful, but a very popular player. Okay, a hard-nosed player in Alec Burks, and he's done a great job. I'm sorry, Alec Burke, as far as, okay, being really thrown into the fire being the guy disappeared, okay, the latter part of the regular season, okay, and now he's thrown into a playoff series.
Yeah, because they
Okay,
lost.
and that's what makes this very, very, very exciting. Okay, and that's why they're an interesting team. How far they go, I think we're headed towards a game 7. Okay, the Knicks have not won a game all year, albeit it was 3 games. Okay, at Indiana, Boston clinched last night. Their series went 5 games. They're going to have rest.
Yeah,
Okay, very interesting to see how it plays out tomorrow. In game 6 in Indiana, I think we're headed for game 7, at the Garden, and hold on to the roof, baby. If it goes game 7, at the Garden.
and I think
I don't know
Indiana.
if I don't know if you agree with that. If it's going 6, if you think it's going 7, um, you know, you're the
I don't
guy
know. I
with
mean,
the fancy shirt on, so
yeah, time will tell. So yeah, I guess. Yeah. But I think the biggest key for Indiana is stopping Brunson. That
absolutely.
whoever they're throwing at him, it just seems like he's on a tear. Like we started off with Bernard King, he's on a tear that we haven't seen since Bernard King. But I just talk a little bit about Jalen Brunson. I mean, coming out of Villanova, excuse me, coming out of Villanova, he- I thought he would be a first round pick. Slips to the second round in the Mavericks. I mean, if you watch those Villanova teams, you know he orchestrated those runs. He had the ball in his hand. He distributed the ball in his hand in those run. And to see him drop down in the second round, and then the Knicks really getting and then get criticized for him, criticized for him. What do you think about Jalen Brunson? First off, is his initiation into the league, and then the rise he has, and also he's been taking over the city, and then just his
It's
performance.
right. It's unbelievable. Now again, let's get into his background. you know, a player, obviously, he was a bench player. He was still around during those times. High character guy, bad Rick Brunson. Okay.
Yeah,
Very,
Temple.
very, very involved in Jalen's career. You have to say between falling to the second round, getting benched by Carlisle in the playoffs, okay, when he was in Dallas, okay, is definitely the source of his motivation. There's not a you know, Stephen A. Smith, throw out some names. Us, there
Yeah,
is nobody that can say honestly when they signed Brunson for that
they s-
money,
they saw it
everybody
coming.
was like, "Wow, this is going to take us, to the Eastern Conference Finals. Wow, we're going to win a title." There is nobody that thought that. This has been unbelievable. And again, that's the beauty of sports is when things like this develop when they're not expected. And for once, okay, the Knicks, okay, when they brought on Leon Rose, I had my doubts. Very, very, very happy he brought in Thibodeau. Okay, and we'll get back to Tibbs in a second. Okay, again, he has done a good job of taking this team, okay, where we needed to be taken to for the sake of Knick fans, but also for the sake of the NBA. Because you cannot dispute that. I said it before. I'll say it again. Some people are like, "Well, it's the Garden is not what it used to be. Playing in New York is not what it used to be." Well, gee, ask the Villanova 3 if playing in New York isn't what it used to be. When Knick basketball is good, the city gets behind Knick basketball.
And
It's
let's just
that
talk
easy.
about
It's that
this.
easy.
And let's talk about the big three from Villanova. I mean, DiVincenzo, Hart, and Brunson. We talked a little bit about Brunson, but Hart, I didn't think he was going to be that good of a pro. If you look at that Villanova team, you look at some of the other players, kind of outshadowed, but he kind of built himself into an NBA player. He's tough at DiVincenzo. I know he left early, got injured, and was in Milwaukee, and then was kind of in NBA purgatory, and then he's some player. I mean, he's electrifying, and also with Thibodeau, it seems like he's pulling the right strings. It seems like he was using the other guard,
McBride.
McBride,
Hmm.
in the season, the series before. Now he's using more DiVincenzo, so
Hmm.
he's like hitting the right levers. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, disagree with that, or
Absolutely, and it's interesting because uh, you want to view this as with some skepticism. They came out with a poll recently, all right, from the Players Association. It's an anonymous poll, and Thibodeau actually got, I don't know if he was the bottom guy or he was very close to the bottom as being one coach that most players would not like to play with. And I think to a certain degree that that is very true. As we know in 2024, okay, the NBA player is a different type of player. However, fast forward now, a guy like Josh Hart, I think that he was created in the Tom Thibodeau lab. He is a true Thibodeau guy, both ends of the floor. When DiVincenzo came here, everybody was like, "Oh, that's great. They got a sharpshooter." Nobody ever thought that they were going to get the minutes again at both ends of the floor that they're getting with DiVincenzo. Okay,
And
now,
then
okay, here's another thing, and we're going to stay on Tibbs, right? Because you asked about Tibbs.
sure,
Okay,
sure.
he's pulling the right levers, absolutely. Okay, absolutely. But this is one thing, okay, and I actually made notes on this, okay, because I don't want to screw it up.
Well, it's good you came prepared, so
I came prepared, right?
So
Sometimes I'm prepared. Okay, so everybody is destroying Thibodeau. Okay, if this goes to 7 games, the Knicks are going to fold because they're tired because he played these guys for too many minutes at the end of the year. Okay, the Knicks are tired. The Knicks are tired. The Knicks are tired. If they go to the Eastern Conference Finals, they're done. If they go to the NBA Finals, they're done. If it goes to 7 games, whatever, they're done. They're done. They're done. These guys are tired legs. That he's burning these guys out. So this is interesting. So far in the postseason, okay, Indiana, okay, has one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Okay, 7 players. Siakam, Halliburton, Turner, Nemhard. Okay, Toppin, McConnell, and Nesmith, who are averaging. That's 7 players averaging double digits in the postseason so far in points. Now you look at the Knicks. Okay, so 7 Pacers. So obviously, okay, people are impressed because they're like, wow, and I heard this the other day. Wow, the Pacers have balance. All right. Outside of Siakam, who's averaging almost 21, there's balance going down. 7 players averaging double digits. Now you look at the Knicks postseason. Okay. Brunson, 33, almost 34. Anobi, excuse me. Okay. DiVincenzo, Hart, Alec Burks, McBride, all averaging in the postseason double digits in points. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the Pacers have 7, the Knicks have 6, and Hardenstein is averaging 9.6 points. So he's almost at the 10 mark. So that's even. So again, you talk about Thibodeau. I just think sometimes he gets this unfair criticism for whatever reason. Okay, yes, these guys are playing a lot of minutes, but in the postseason, yes, the Villanova 3, it's a great story. It's great to market. Anytime in New York when you have these little nicknames, okay, they it sells. It sells papers. It sells hits. It sells everything, right? People click on stuff. Whatever. You look at it, they have 7 players. Everybody's talking about how balanced the Pacers are, but it's almost identical in the amount of players. 7, 6, give Hardestein 0.4, and he's at 10, and now you have 7 and 7.
yeah.
The rotation has gotten shorter. So what you're seeing on the court, I think you're seeing a very great matchup. Okay, based on the numbers, I think to say the Knicks are playing too many minutes. Can you really say that? Okay, when you start comparing the stats of what Rick Carlisle is doing. Okay, yes, of course Brunson's going to play heavy minutes. Of course Hart's going to play heavy minutes. It's the playoffs. Should he have given him a rest? Well, you can make the argument, of course he could have gave him a rest. However, they went rolling into the postseason. Okay, and their production has in no shape, shape, or form, okay, has gone down. Okay, so I think that's an unfair criticism, to Thibodeau.
Well,
Okay,
I mean, I'm a big Thibodeau fan. I mean, minus Rose getting hurt, that Bulls team, he might have won the NBA Finals that year. That year, I mean,
correct.
granted, there's some speculation that he should have been in the game at that time, but I mean, even with
Right.
Derek
And he
Derek
also did a
Rose,
great job with the Wolves too. He did a good
yeah.
job in Minnesota.
So I mean, I think he's a great coach,
Absolutely.
and considering the injuries that they had to deal with, you're talking about,
Well, we
you know,
didn't even scratch upon that yet. So
yeah. So I mean, and just the production at Hardstein, he's not even a household name, and then now people,
right,
and now he's getting major minutes in New York, in a playoff game. So that's where legends are made. That's
Absolutely.
so that's where legends are made. So
You got Julius Randle sitting on the end of a bench out for the year, in a tracksuit. And again, when's the last time anybody talked about him? Now, again, there's some people that say the chemistry is stronger, the chemistry is better. Okay, the cohesion is stronger. Okay, because he's out. Still put up NBA, still all-star numbers, not in your starting lineup.
it's still a
Mitchell
weapon, though.
Robinson,
Yeah,
right? Great, I would say great shot blocker. Okay,
yeah.
I
Does
wouldn't
a lot
want
of
him taking. I wouldn't
does a
want him
lot of
taking a free throw or a layup. But
yeah.
again, he is a presence. Okay, in defending. Okay, in defending. Okay, the paint and defending the post. Okay, again, he's not there. Okay, so again, I mean, yes, injuries are a part of it. It seems everywhere you turn. Bogdanovich,
Yeah,
Bogdanovich.
Bonovich, yeah, he's out.
Bogey. Bogey's out for you. That's three guys. Three guys who bring very different things, who have three very different games.
And then OG's out too. I mean, he's been
Correct.
injury plagued, so somebody else had to
Correct.
come up with those minis. Like you said, I think you hit it with Burks though. I mean, just to get the productivity and an NBA journeyman who was kind of on the shelf, and then
Correct.
all of a sudden reinvent himself is really something to see.
Absolutely.
But that's why we watch sports. That's why that's what keeps us coming back. These stories of
Correct. This is
overcoming.
this is a great story. Like if you look at it, yes, we could sit here and we could do a whole show on Brunson. We could do a whole show on Hart, and we could do a whole show on the Villanova three. You look at the guy that has impressed me so far is Alec Burks because again, okay, it's how many veterans, okay, are going to sit there, okay, and be like you said, put on the shelf, put out the pasture, okay, and then their number is it's a great lesson, it's a great life lesson, okay. His number was called, and man, he produced. Not there's not many. You look at any sport. There's not many veterans. Who becomes a malcontent, who mails it in, who's showing up for a chat. I
Yeah,
mean,
especially basketball. Like guys go over to Europe or
correct,
guys somewhere go somewhere else. There's a lot of leagues you could play for, and then stay in the NBA. It's a grind, especially
right.
especially trying to make it. You always got competition coming up, and so it's definitely a grind. So, but
And again, it's you look at I think any. I don't even want to use the word diehard because again, New York, like you said, you get the Wall Street folk going in the Garden, but you look at any true Knick fan. This is a good series because again, everybody always wants to talk, Knick Bulls. The '80s was a little different. It was Knick Pistons, Knick Celtics a little to a certain degree. Okay, way back when it was Knicks Baltimore Bullets, Knicks LA Lakers. Okay, but again, you look at really the '90s. Okay, Rick Smits. I mean, Knicks Pacers. I mean, this is a heated rivalry. And this is a good rivalry, and this is great for the NBA. This is great for Indiana. It's great for New York. And in a certain way, I would love for the Knicks to wrap this up as a Knicks fan, of course, in Game 6. But then the fan part of me, the NBA fan part of me, is like, let's take it 7 because it would be
yeah,
great. It would be
yeah.
great for the league.
Let's take it to the edge. Let's
Yeah,
get the
and
drama
and
going. So.
and, and it's really really what the league needs. I think in a time, and I know I might be in the minority in saying this, but we're this year we're a little bit past the super team, if you will, that was being formed. Advancing, getting far in the playoffs. I mean, we're a little bit past that, which I think is what the league needs. Phoenix was a disaster this year.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, Frank Vogel cost him his job. But the quote
yeah,
unquote, super team, we need three guys. Listen, the Knicks have their own version right now with a big three, and it's not the big three that you would have thought, when we were in October, right around Halloween, waiting for opening tip off. So I mean, it's a great story, and
yeah.
this is what you said. This is what makes sports, special. You off air, you alluded to another thing. I mean, we talked about the Garden being electric. Okay, how many former Knicks? And
Well, I'll give you a list.
I think Jimmy, like
Yeah.
you said, we need to use that term loosely because there's some guys that maybe shouldn't be allowed in the building. So I'll let you start throwing off
Well, let
some
me
names.
because obviously Patrick Ewing, he's in the rafters, should be
Correct.
a Nick. Bill Bradley, definitely a
I'll
Nick.
look it up. Sure.
Herb Williams, I think he's got a 20-year affiliation with the
Correct.
franchise. Larry Johnson, I would say, even though he came through Charlotte, I would consider him a Nick. But
Correct.
then I'm looking on Twitter, or now it's X, Tim Thomas. Would you consider him a Nick?
No, I would not consider him a quote unquote Nick. He had uh, two stints with the Knicks. The first one was, I thought, a horrible trade. Now you're really going to get me annoyed and aggravated and pumped. All right, the
Yeah.
first time around, he was traded. Isaiah, the team was playing very, very well under Lenny Wilkins. Believe it or not, Keith Van Horn and Stephon Marbury were playing tremendous together. They were
Yeah.
clicking. It was a 1-2 punch. Isaiah, in his infinite wisdom, decides to ship Van Horn, okay, for Tim Thomas, which was ironic because they got traded on draft night. Okay. However, I would not consider. Then Tim Thomas came back. You
And
know,
now he's Paramus
now
Catholics,
he's our head coach of Paramus
Paramus
Catholic.
Catholic. So
Listen, love Tim Thomas, Jersey guy.
yeah, yeah, Villanova guy.
Villanova guy.
He changed New Jersey basketball. He was like the
Correct,
first big man really to handle the ball and everything
correct.
else. Jimmy Salmon, he was big in AU circuit.
Yeah,
That was his guy. But I mean,
really
Patterson
did a
Catholic.
lot. Really did a lot for Patterson Catholic. So
Yeah,
again, love Tim Thomas. He's not a Nick,
yeah.
and I don't think we've seen him before this series.
Clyde, I forgot to mention Clyde Frazier,
Oh,
obviously a Nick.
sure.
Larry Johnson, I think, said it best. He goes, "I want to win because of him."
Yes,
Because Clyde Frazier is still considered a god.
he is
And
absolutely
so Bill Bradley, U.S. Center, Nick. I would say a
correct.
Nick. Now we start to get Stephon. You alluded to him, Stephon Marbury. Was out in Minnesota, came to the Nets, got a stint with the Knicks, Brooklyn. Lincoln,
Played
Brooklyn.
well in Phoenix, to be
Yeah,
fair. Was traded for
you
Marbury.
you consider him a Nick?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Now I
What
think,
about?
to be honest, and again, I know when you go to the Garden, and I've been to the Garden, numerous times, you hear the once a Nick, always a Nick. I get it. Stephon Marbury represented an underachieving, me first, when everything was wrong about the Knicks during those times, he was the poster boy. He
Yeah,
shouldn't be allowed in the building.
yeah. Well, and plus, I think he had that whatever lawsuit or
Well, he has the
something. I mean,
sexual. He was involved
yeah,
with the right.
yeah. So I mean, anyway. But I guess forgive and forget. Um, Wilson Chandler, another person that was in the building. Yeah, made an impact. I think injuries. I think came from
Yeah,
Dallas, right? Injuries kind of caused it. A season or 2 years. He was definitely the face of the franchise.
not a Nick.
Okay, John Starks,
Nick,
definitely a Nick.
definitely a Nick.
Latrell Sprewell.
Definitely a Nick.
Um, Now we're getting down to some other names. Kyle O'Quinn.
I'm not even going to comment on that. It's funny. My
Yeah,
son and I were talking about that the other day. Again, played hard,
yeah,
meat and potatoes guy. But again, like when you talk about this team that we're watching now. Okay, the Knicks are a very traditional organization. Okay, the Clydes. Okay, Earl Monroe came as a superstar, and he basically conformed to the team. So besides winning in 70 and 73, okay, excuse me, okay, that team is revered because those were great players that came together and won
yeah.
two
And,
championships.
and one
Now
of
you
my
look at
great
go ahead.
and one of my fondest moments probably in life was Dave DeBusschere holding that, horseshoe when they
Yes,
won the
the
lottery
rabbit
for
sport,
Pat
right.
for Patrick
For
Ewing. So you're
Patrick
talking,
Ewing, right,
yeah. So I mean that's there was lineage there. So
correct.
yeah. So from the old to the new.
But
So
I mean, again, yes, there are like to say that these guys are Knicks. John Starks is a Nick. Another guy, okay, who gets maybe people don't look at him because of the longevity. Larry Johnson, when he came to the Knicks, if you remember, knee injuries, so on and so forth, he wasn't the above the rim player that he was previously. He was on so much pain medicine that he developed bad ulcers. And that's kind of how when he was here with the Nick, as a Nick, a guy that was battle tested, somebody you would want to go into battle with that gave you everything. Now you're going to compare him, a guy like that is going to sit there, next to Stephon Marbury, who when Lenny Wilkins was the coach, when Herb Williams was the coach, okay, he would say, I'm not practicing. I'm going to go get a massage, in the middle of practice. I'm done practicing. It doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It,
and
does,
they,
it,
and
it, it shouldn't
he
happen.
they went over to China and they became a sensation over there,
Well,
Marbury.
he
So
sold he sold $9 sneakers, so
well, Storbury. So Allen Houston, Nick or not a
he's a
Nick?
Nick.
Yeah, and
Him
then
one of the biggest shots. I mean, he was part of that '99 run without Ewing.
yeah,
Allen Houston works for the organization
yeah.
again. The
I,
Allen
I I
Houston,
I agree with you on Allen Houston. He's definitely a likable person.
correct, and the injuries derailed his career.
Yeah, and played for his dad at Tennessee, so another
Correct.
Tennessee connection. So, last but not least, Carmelo Anthony, Nick or not a Nick?
So here's the interesting part about Carmelo Anthony. He had a few good playoff series. Carmelo Anthony, I think, when is all said and done, and the smoke clears, I actually think they'll retire his number. I really do. And I have a problem with that because again, Bernard King's number is not retired. That always kind of struck a chord with me. But I think when you look at Carmelo's career, okay, he came here. He forced his way. He wanted to be here when nobody wanted to come to New York. Um, him and D'Antoni had the issue. It kind of simmered down when Woodson came. But when you look at when the smoke clears and you look at his career, he had a very good NBA career. A lot of
Absolutely,
points.
yeah.
He put up a lot.
He still played up till last year. He was
Correct.
playing for Portland. So I mean,
Correct.
you know,
Doing more than a serviceable job, and he did put up good numbers. With the Knicks. People look at him. You know, is he the Nick that kind of was the wilderness years? I don't even think you could call it the wilderness years. The wilderness years were like the Marbury years where we were going nowhere fast. I mean, Mike Woodson did a very good job. You talk about Amari Stoudemire. Amari Stoudemire came here. He got injured. He was here a few years, but
yeah,
again,
the back injury and
the back. But
was
he
I
took the
saw him on
money
I
when
saw him on
nobody
Sesame
else wanted
Street
to
when
take
my
the money.
so
If I had to make a baseball comparison, Amari Stoudemire is like what Jimmy Key was for the Yankees. Jimmy Key was the first free agent after nobody wanted to come, and he kind of opened the door. And that's eventually what got Carmelo here. I mean, again, that was a fun team to watch. They had
yeah,
the Baron Davis, got his second wind. Rasheed Wallace. I mean, it was those teams played hard as well.
yeah.
But the Marbury era Knicks, that's a whole nother topic.
Okay, and let's go to another topic. Charles Oakley. You think that he's going to be welcome back, or do you think that he's going to still be banished from the Garden?
I think as long as James Dolan is there, I think he's banished. I think one thing that James Dolan has proved time and time again is he's a very petty individual. And I think it's a shame that you mean to tell me that they can't get everybody in the room um, and really work that out. And I think, unfortunately, Dolan, because he's so conniving, if you will, has now caused certain players to kind of he helped, if you will, right? Because these are grown men; they make their own decisions. He helped create a divide with Oakley, and Spreewell, and a couple of other guys, Marcus Camby.
Yeah,
And I think Oakley has taken it. Again, his hands are not totally clean, in that he's attacked Ewing, I think, a little unfairly.
yeah.
But
That
here's
that's
a
how he
guy.
play. That's how he played.
That's how he
He is
played.
he is who he is.
He is who he is. He gave everything he had for you night in and night out.
And
Um,
undersized.
Undersized.
Virginia Union.
Correct.
Not really a big name coming out of
Correct.
and 6'7", and
Right.
and at the time when you didn't want to drive the lane because you knew you were going to get clobbered.
Correct.
So I mean, so
Yep. He
Um,
gave them an identity. Absolutely.
I forgot Marcus Camby. I saw him up in UMass. You consider him a Nick or not a
I
Nick?
consider him a Nick. I mean, he's part of that, again, that 99 team, just to get to the finals without Ewing. I mean, nobody, I mean, for an 8 seed to beat a 1 seed, to go into, listen, to win one game against San Antonio in the finals was a miracle. And again, that electrified the city as well, because that kind of obviously came
Yeah,
out of nowhere, as an 8 seed.
absolutely. And who would you like to see at a game? Who would you like to see? Yeah, underneath the basket at these games or sitting on the sideline
Well,
or court side.
I don't think the organization has done a good job. They say it takes two to tango, but I don't think the organization, and again, we live in the world of James Dolan, which there's the real world and then there's James Dolan's world.
Yeah,
I don't think they really did a good job of really getting Ewing back into the fold. Okay, I mean, they did a good job they got Allen Houston into the fold.
yeah,
They got Starks into the fold. Bernard King is always around. Clyde Frazier obviously, is employed as the MSG, color guy. On with Mike Breen. I just think that's one name that really should be, more embraced and more involved in the organization.
well,
And
I think
again,
you
I'm not talking coaching. He has to be involved in the organization.
yeah, well, I think that his coach and, obviously we're rooting for him at Georgetown to do
Right.
well, but, you know yeah, but he was trying to get somewhere. He was assistant out in Seattle. He was bouncing around the league a little bit
Yeah,
trying to get a head
Orlando, Houston, he was
so
around.
so, I mean, he was around, but he just didn't ever really,
Yeah,
never really, came to fruition, but, I mean, like I said, he's to me, the Ewing years were the best years in our generation,
absolutely.
for that, and it's just a shame that they didn't win one, when they
Correct.
had the
They came.
opportunity.
That was the closest they've ever came. Was 94, obviously, and 99. Listen, I don't think there's anybody, that thought that, like I said, that the Knicks were going to win a game in 99 against San Antonio, and they did that. I mean, with that team, just to get through the Eastern Conference and to get, to the finals, that was, an accomplishment itself. But 94, they had it. They had it. It slipped through their fingers.
Yeah,
No
yeah.
question.
Well, I mean, yeah, the John Starks game, yeah, the Charles Smith game, so they had their opportunities, and it just kind of things kind of just didn't. And the '99, you're talking,
Oh,
against
there's a few other years, but specifically the '94, they should have won the Houston series. No question, if and or buts. I mean, they should have won that.
Yeah. So anyway, Jerry, just we're closing it out. I know we're getting up close to it.
Yeah,
So, what's your prediction? Do you think that the Knicks are going to close it out? And then, what's your prediction going forward if they meet Boston?
Knicks in 7, and I think we have to save another show for Boston. I don't think there's anybody associated in or around the NBA that thinks the Knicks would beat Boston. That's my prediction.
Yeah.
I
And
think
then,
we're in for a very traditional Eastern Conference series, which would be great again for the NBA if the Knicks can get by the Pacers. I think everybody is rooting, obviously, for New York, Boston. I think the Knicks are going to have problems tomorrow night. In Game 6, they're going to win it in 7 at home, and the Boston series is going to be, if it comes to that, it's going to be very, very, very difficult with them only having to play 5 games in this. In this,
what about on the other side of leisure? Minnesota, a couple Jersey guys on there. You
yeah,
have
very exciting to watch.
Cal Anderson, six man
Yeah,
of the year. I know
yeah.
went to my alma mater, Roseville Catholic. Nas Reed, Carl Anthony Towns, but they, we're up
Cat,
2-0.
the cat
Yeah,
was always rumored to come to the Knicks,
yeah. So I
but
mean,
again,
what do you think? What do you think about the other side of the ledger? What do you think? Who comes
I
out of the
like I
West?
like Minnesota. The best thing that could happen for Minnesota is they keep A-Rod out of ownership, because I think that he might throw in the he might give some bad juju there towards Minnesota. But no, on a
You
serious note, Minnesota is tough. I think they come out of the West.
you think so?
I think
Yeah,
so.
they're going to beat the Joker. You think that's going
I
to
think they
happen?
beat the Joker. Yeah,
So who do you think they square off with?
I want to say New York.
Yeah, well,
I
emotionally,
think we're headed for Minnesota, Boston.
well, one thing interesting. Um,
Then Kevin Garnett has to make a decision who he roots for.
yeah, you think so? So, interesting fun fact though, like talk about Jersey basketball. Kevin Boyle down in Montverde won high school national championship for high school. Your old neighbor Danny Hurley won for UConn, and Malone, Brendan Malone's son out in Denver, ended up
Mike.
yeah,
Mike.
ended up he played at Seton Hall Prep, so he had 3 New Jersey connections
Yeah.
there that won a chance. So fun fact, New Jersey, you talk about New Jersey basketball, I know we were trying to get other guests on here, but New Jersey
Yeah.
basketball, so it's fun
Absolutely. And
fun fu
I think listen, let me just add to that. Um, Mike Malone was the only thing that came out positive, I should say, that came out of the Nick Isaiah Thomas tenure because he was on the Lenny Wilkins, Herb Williams staff, if you will, because
yeah.
his dad was very close to Isaiah Thomas. His dad coached with Chuck Daly, okay, in Detroit. And I believe, yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that's correct. Thinking out loud, Isaiah, when he was the GM of the Raptors, hired Brendan Malone, Michael's dad.
He was the first coach of, the
Correct.
Raptors, and he was
Michael's
on,
dad, and so he
he
was involved. He was, he was a
and
very young assistant.
I think he was on Hubie Brown's staff too with
Brendan Malone,
Pitino.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Brendan Miller, the father. So
yeah, very well traveled
yeah,
NBA guy. Yep.
so anyway, well, listen, Jerry,
Nixon 7, Jimmy.
Nixon
Write it
7.
down.
So, all right, you want to take us out? You want me to take us out?
You can
What do you?
take us out. You're in the shirt again, the nice
Okay, I'm
shirt.
in the shirt. I'm in the studio. You
You're in the
still don't want to,
studio. You're in the shirt. I'm like the
you know,
missing link, baby.
yeah,
Parts unknown.
you don't want to, you don't want to pay the toll to get down the Parkway toll. But this is episode number 3 of Sports Consiglieres. This is Jim Whalen with Jerry Cal. Look forward to Knicks, Rangers, NBA playoffs. Also, we'll sprinkle in a couple guests here and there. Please follow us on Instagram at Sports Consiglieres. Also, email me at njhoops@hotmail.com if you have any show comments or if you have a interesting topic you want to have Jerry and I discuss. Thank you for the people that reached out who followed us already. We're trying to keep that content relevant. So other than that, look forward to another episode real soon. We're trying to get one a week with whatever you think about. So this is Jim Whalen, Jerry Callis signing off, episode number 3.
Thank you, everyone.